Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Wells, and I am the chair for the SEAHO Professional Development Committee. And so, thank you all for attending this webinar. I am so excited for our panelists today, and I'm excited that you were able to make time to join. So, hopefully, this will be beneficial. It's always beneficial for me talking to these two individuals because they have a lot of wonderful knowledge and great experience. And so, I really do appreciate that. So, we are going to be letting people in. So if I get a little distracted, just know that I'm kind of still admitting people at the same time as well. But I do hope everyone is having a good summer so far, and that you're able to find some time throughout the summer to take a little bit of a break and take care of you because, we're always busy. We're probably busier in the summer to a certain extent. So please do that. Take some time. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. I also want to introduce Liz and Gerald because she is actually the chair select for the SEAHO Professional Development Committee as well. And so she's going to be listening in. And so I'm thankful to have her a part of this wonderful committee and anybody else who's part of the SEAHO Professional Development Committee. And also Megan Becker, I want to shout her out as well as the director of the committees. So thank you all for joining, and any of my SEAHO Governing Council, thank you all for joining as well. So let's introduce the guests of the hour. So Paul Jahr, Dr. Paul Jahr, has had over 40 years of professional experience in student affairs, with 33 of those years in housing and residence life when he retired in 2013. His career took him to 6 institutions, and 21 of his years were at the director level, with the last 7 as Associate Vice President of Student Affairs. He has held numerous leadership positions in both SEAHO and ACUHO I, and has been recognized for his profession career of service with numerous awards, including from SEAHO, the Founders Award, and from ACUHO I, the ACUHO I Award, the Parthenon Award, the Research and Publications Award, and the James C. Grimm Leadership and Service Award. He has served as an external reviewer for 17 housing and residence life programs and was the lead reviewer on 15 of those. Since retiring, he continues to give back in many ways within his local community and within the housing profession. He is proudest of his efforts to provide support, encouragement, assistance, and hope for colleagues, protégés, both young and old. He and his wife of 51 years, Diane, are extensive world travelers and have one son, Drew, who is also a housing professional at Texas Tech University. So thank you, Dr. Yar, for taking time out today. And then
Thank
next
you.
we have Dr. Gerry Kowalski, is a retired student affairs professional and professor who currently serves as a senior porch inspector and consultant. Gerry retired as executive director of university housing at the University of Georgia. Prior to UGA, Gerry initiated the director of residence education life at Virginia Tech. At both institutions, he taught as an adjunct faculty for the graduate preparation programs in college student affairs, higher education for almost 30 years. Before these roles, Kowalski worked as an assistant director of residence life at the University of Pittsburgh while he acquired a doctoral degree. In his first professional job, Kowalski helped originate the assistant director of residence halls at Trinity University in Texas. Dr. K obtained his bachelor's and master's degrees from Bucknell University. During his career, Dr. K was a member of regional and national student affairs professional associations, including serving as president of ACUHO. He served ACUHO I for over 30 years, which he'll be attending again soon. And he notable involvements were co-chair of NHTI, presenter at the groundbreaking 2010 Southern African Housing Summit, membership on the Advocacy and Influential Leadership Task Force, the Program and Research Committees, the editorial board of the JCUSH, and association-sponsored research about executive leadership. Dr. K is a 2024 recipient of the ACUHO I Award, as well as a past recipient of the Parthenon Award and the James C. Grimm Leadership and Service Award. He presented regularly at state, regional, national, and international conferences. Dr. K is married to Gina. They have 2 married sons. Is it Deals?
It's Jaci. It's a Polish word for grandfather.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and 2 grandsons. He is an avid walker, reader, golfer, and traveler. So thank you once again, Dr. Kowalski. We definitely appreciate your time. So we're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna meet some people. Some people came in real quick. and then I'm going to begin asking them some questions. And then we're going to give some time, closer to about 2:45, 1:45 Central Time for any of you all that may have some questions as well. And so, first question will be, and I know this is difficult, however, can you give a brief description of your journey in higher education and why you chose this as a career? And anyone can begin.
Age preferred beauty, Gerry?
Sure.
That's me. Okay. First of all, thank you all for being here, and certainly hope that you will get something from the wit and whipsy that Gerry and I will both share with you now, and certainly in the future, should anybody want to follow up with either one of us. For a little bit of background, I was born in 1950, which makes me a baby boomer. And my full-time career ended over 11 years ago in 2013, as Christian mentioned. My journey into higher education began in the fall of 1968 when I left New York City to attend the University of Miami in Florida and moved into a brand new 1,000 student residence hall that was still being completed. And the sidebar, Liz, who's on this call, my understanding is they are literally tearing it down 56 years later. When I went to college, my plan was to major in marine biology and become a cancer researcher. After one semester, I realized that my academic plan was unrealistic and I had to rethink my future. According to my undergraduate transcript, I majored in sociology and English, but in reality, I majored in student involvement. This might help to explain why I don't believe that I chose higher education as a career. I believe it chose me. After 3 years as an RA, I remained at the U, accepted a graduate assistantship in housing, and earned my master's degree in college student personnel. It was there that I began my association with the most influential individual in my higher education career, Mr. James C. Grimm, who was the director of housing, and the most influential individual in my personal life, my wife, Diane. We married during my second year as a graduate assistant. At that point, my professional career followed a fairly typical path at that time. My first full-time position was as a hall director at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, where I developed two more mentors, Dr. Betty Hara and Dr. Welker Bishop. I was one of 34 full-time master's degree tenure track hall directors reporting to one individual, Betty Hara. I left Ball State after 3 years to become an area coordinator at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. 2 years later, I was promoted to the assistant director for Residence Life program there. During that time, our son Drew was born. After 2 years in that assistant director role, we moved to Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, where I was assistant director of housing for Residence Life. After some stormy times in 4 years, I left to assume my first director position at what was then Kearney State College in Nebraska, now University of Nebraska at Kearney. 4 years later, in 1988, an opportunity came available for us to move to Georgia College in Milledgeville, an institution and a place I had never heard of before, as their director of residence life. I made the move for family reasons and the opportunity to begin working on my doctorate as a part-time commuting graduate student at the University of Georgia. 83,000 miles and 6 years later, I graduated with an EDD in adult and continuing education and a dissertation entitled How College Housing Officers Develop Their Professional Expertise. And for those of you who have never seen a written hardbound dissertation, here is what one looks like. Once I got my doctorate, colleagues assumed I would leave for another professional opportunity. But because my job responsibilities continued to evolve, Georgia College continued its development as the public liberal arts university within the University System of Georgia. I was well positioned at Georgia College, and my family was established in Milledgeville. We stayed. After 17 years with primary responsibility for housing, I became the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs. In that role, I was responsible for overseeing what I call the campus life arena, providing leadership to the Student Affairs Division, serving as a divisional assessment officer, chairing the university's care team, and serving as the university judicial officer. So no matter how high up or down you go in the organization, there's always way more to do than you have time for. At the end of January 2013, after 7 years as the associate vice president, I retired. I came back what they call 49% time until June 30th of that year. 7 days later, I was approached by the leadership at Armstrong State University, which is now Georgia Southern University in Savannah, and agreed to serve as their interim director of housing and residence life. Finally, on January 31, 2014, I turned in my keys and effectively brought my professional career to a close. That be it.
Okay. Well, Paul, that's a wonderful statement, and I'm just in awe of all that you've accomplished. And the way you gave a chronology there is fantastic. I too am very humbled and honored to be part of this. But here's my professional story. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I was an RA who wanted to be a high school teacher and a coach. While pursuing a master's degree in education, I became a residence hall director in a first-year male hall. What a nightmare and what a life changer. Upon graduation, I took the advice of my older brother and hero to look at higher education. I was fortunate enough to land a housing job at the lucrative salary of $13,000 a year at Trinity University, and I never looked back. My first year at Trinity, my boss and I significantly talked about life and work, and she permitted me to attend my first professional conference. Now, I have an undergrad and a master's degree at this point in time, and I still don't really know what student affairs is. Mm-hmm. While I was at the conference, a curtain was lifted. Charlie Schroeder, who was a former president of ACPA, did a presentation, and it really helped me to learn about holistic human development, and with further discernment about me, my passions, my interests, and my talents, including reading a seminal book on student affairs, I determined that I wanted to pursue a doctoral degree and further a career in student affairs, fancying a job as a dean of students at a small college. It's one goal I never attained. With that intention, I attained a mid-level position at the University of Pittsburgh and finished the doctoral degree while I was working full-time. That cemented my career path because I had accomplished a major goal, gathered professional momentum, and earned a golden ticket for desired jobs. Subsequently, I spent almost 30 years as a senior housing officer at Virginia Tech and the University of Georgia. I also taught in the higher ed programs, as Christian mentioned. Over time, I became heavily involved in our associations and found great satisfaction in multiple roles. Not ironically, those experiences actually helped me to attain my goal of being a teacher and a coach. And on January 1st, 2018, I began the sweetest time of my life, and the second best decision I ever made was retiring from the University of Georgia. First decision people know about, my beautiful wife, Gina.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for sharing your journey. I'm, going back to the salary, I'm just like, a lot of us are probably like, oh my goodness, right?
My starting salary was $9,000
Oh,
as a hall director.
wow. Wow. That's, yeah, it's
That was big money.
That was
It
big. That was
was.
big. Oh, goodness.
I bought my first car and my first stereo.
There you go.
I love it. So next question will be for some of our new professionals who may be in the room. What advice would you give a new professional when it comes to navigating the changes in higher education?
Paul, if you don't mind, we'll just kind of alternate here.
That works. Go for it.
Good. So my first statement is change is inevitable and constant. So we must welcome its presence and its force. Keep yourself rooted in the foundational student affairs documents. If you haven't reread the Student Personnel Point of View from 1937, read it. It's a good document. Students must always be preeminent in our minds, hearts, words, and actions. And that is always a good guide to stay grounded while managing turbulent times. The pace of change in higher education in the world is much more accelerated than when I was a young professional. Allow yourself to, and this is an emphasis, try to understand the changes before you determine how you will respond and navigate it. I suggest that you conduct discernment activities now to know who you are as a professional and what you want to accomplish. You've all conducted retreats for students, but have you ever conducted a retreat for yourself? You need to establish an even firmer foundation, and once you have that stronger sense of self-awareness, you are better prepared to act and interact. And those of you who know me a long time like to know that I speak in analogies. So I'm reminded of the captain of a four-masted ship who plots out a specific course and destination, loads in supplies, preps the ship and the crew, and sets out on the journey. The captain enjoys the journey with all the experiences in new places and adjusts the course as appropriate. But sometimes the captain is unable to avoid inevitable storms, squalls, or the doldrums. Keep a firm hand on the helm of a stout ship, an eye on the horizon, gain experience, use teamwork from the crew to steer the ship to calmer waters or a safe harbor. Likewise, the captain personally uses their sea legs to adjust to the rock and roll of the ship, even in good weather. Become the captain of your ship.
Sweet. Much more eloquent than I will state it, but you will hear a couple of similarities in the comments I'm going to make, and we have not compared notes. Okay. Basically, we're living in a very dynamic and changing times, and we're facing rapid change in many areas of our lives and profession. I believe that in higher education, change is inevitable, and frankly, it's always been there. In the environment and times we're living in, it's going to continue to happen, and probably faster and faster. For your personal well-being, I suggest you concentrate on change at the more local level. I believe the changes that are and will continue to be taking place in higher education are way past our individual ability to significantly impact them. Regardless of the nature of the change, it's important to recognize that vast majority of the time, you aren't initiating the change, nor can you impact whether that change takes place. But in all cases, you can impact how you choose to react to that change. No one has a crystal ball, but I believe most everyone initiates change with a positive intention. I am Pollyanna. On your department and campus level, when change takes place, be patient and flexible. Seek to find out how you can contribute to making that change work. Focus on working to contribute to making the change successful. You may not have encountered these in your career, and for a little levity, I'm going to cite for a few groups I urge you to avoid becoming a member of, and I apologize if the following offends anybody. Don't become a member of the BMW club. That's bitch, moan, and whine. Don't join the BLC club. That's the bitter lunch club. And avoid becoming a cave, citizen against virtually everything. I believe change and the future are intertwined. I encourage you to begin to design your vision for the future and engage in serious and prolonged conversations with your colleagues and the various constituencies you serve and work with before others define the future for you. As you plan and approach the future, never take anything for granted. As you determine how you'll conduct yourself and where you will employ your best efforts, I encourage you to keep in mind the importance of what I refer to as the C words: communication, cooperation, collaboration, creativity, civility, compassion, commitment, compromise, consideration, and confidence. Bet you didn't think there were that many C words that would apply. That's what I have to share.
Thank you. I love that. I love the self-retreat idea, and I like your phrases BMW. I'm not gonna look at the same now. I love
I
that.
didn't create it, but it's a good one.
I love it. So for our next question, now that you are retired, what is one thing you would have changed in your career and why?
Okay, I guess that being ping pong's my way. I'd say, first of all, I don't see myself as retired. And many of my colleagues and friends have often reminded me that I have, quote, failed retirement. In my mind, I am the poster child for what a housing and student affairs retiree can be if he or she wants. Someone who continues to contribute and offers my expertise, knowledge, and experience to those who desire it. Because of the experience I had over my career with mentors and proteges, I see it as my obligation to offer support and encouragement to interested colleagues, both seasoned and those early in their professional careers. In looking back, I don't know that I would have changed much of anything. On the personal side, I regret that I didn't spend more time with our son, Drew, when he was growing up. As I said earlier, one of the reasons we moved to my initial position at Georgia College in 1988 was to work on my doctorate at the University of Georgia. Back then, that involved almost 3.5 hours of commuting on days that I had late afternoon classes, as well as out of class time, library time, and then time on my dissertation, proposal, researching, and writing. And when I was doing this, the internet was just coming around, and email. It took me 6 years to complete it all, and those years overlapped with Drew's important late elementary school through high school years. Professionally, I don't think that I would change anything I experienced during my career, despite having experienced both many successes and some significant failures. I never let the challenges of negative situations consume me or sour me on that position or the profession. I knew I had lots to offer, and I would find a place where I would be appreciated for what I could contribute. And I believe the record will show that it turned out okay. Thank you.
So the unobtrusive measure is it turned out a whole lot better than okay, Paul. But anyway,
Thank you.
I guess my response is a little bit more specific. I would have identified gaps in my experience and been more intentional about getting exposure to housing and residence life and student affairs functions outside of res life. Seeking opportunities on campus for committees in areas where I lack experience, or attending conference sessions that were outside of residence life. I was so focused on that, I think I missed out on opportunities for exposure. So in retirement, I've reflected on all the experience that I've gained in all of the functional areas of housing after I gained a senior housing officer position. I conducted research on executive leadership with Kathy Hobgood to advance the notion that individuals seeking a senior housing officer role must know their competencies and intentionally seek out fuller experience before they step in to SHO roles. And it is the association's responsibility to outline those pathways, and we're working on that.
Okay.
Thank you both for sharing. I can definitely agree that I don't think y'all are truly retired, obviously, but I definitely love that you are dedicated to the field, to be able to give back. I think that's inspiring. I hope to be the same one day, because we need all of the help we need. With people's experiences, it doesn't matter, how long you've been retired. I think it's always valuable to hear about other people's experiences and what advice they can give to help others to continue to succeed. So our next question is, what advice would you give when it comes to navigating the politics in higher education?
Well, I'll start and say that I really tried to be succinct with this one because it's probably one of the bigger topics that we can talk about. But politics is about power, influence, and money. It gets a bad rap, and some people avoid it. I believe we must act quite the opposite. Even you are a political animal because you are a person of power and influence with access to money to others in your sphere of control and your sphere of the world. My suggestion is to try to understand politics before you act, and that's at the institutional level most specifically. With intention, approach, inquire, listen, and learn. Your perspective about the person with the power, influence, and money may change. Ask your supervisors and mentors to identify who those key decision makers and money managers are on your campus. Try to get introduced to them, and again, try to determine what their priorities are. Another important way to navigate politics is to read periodicals. And a lot of them are available online. Some of them are in student affairs and others are in corporate America, but some suggestions would be the Harvard Business Review, Forbes, EAB, etc. Those are all sort of big picture perspectives that will help you understand those political issues that affect higher education and how they are affecting your individual campuses. That's it for me.
Okay. What a question. I'm going to share a hodgepodge of some of my thoughts. I believe navigating politics is a dynamic process, a learning by doing experience, which needs to be experienced, but can also be learned from others' experiences through observation and processing. Politics is inevitable and has been around forever. It's a fact of life, and it's neither inherently positive nor negative, and is not something to be scared about or avoided. I believe that learning to navigate politics should be seen as a professional development opportunity and approached in that way. If you're not doing it now, I urge you to become a strategic partner throughout your campus, actively working to educate other individuals, departments, and programs about the way your residential experience can promote and enhance their efforts. In an era of diminishing resources, ways to partner and support one another are going to be critical. To contribute to your political success, I believe you should reach out and get out. Your physical presence out and about your campus, interacting with others, speaks volumes, as does volunteering to serve on committees and help out. Take advantage of attending meetings and programs outside of your department, including university governance, student government association, staff senate, academic presentations, and athletic and cultural events. I encourage you to spend some more time listening than talking, and give thought to what you're saying, for you never know when things are going to come back and bite you. There is a reason we've been equipped with 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. I believe politics, your reputation, and relationships are tied together. All you do in your position is contributing to your professional reputation and identity, and you want to do all in your power to make positive contributions to that reputation. It's a small profession and people have long memories, so try not to burn any bridges. You never know when that situation or relationship may come up later in your career. Bottom line, you have to develop your own approach and style you're comfortable with when you're dealing with politics, and recognize it may change over time and by the position you're in. My thoughts.
Thank you so much. That is extremely helpful. I think that's a topic that a lot of us don't really like to talk about, but you do it anyways, right? And I think it's important that, especially for our new professionals, that sometimes as you move up, you don't recognize the politics and how it really does shape your experience as a professional. So I love some of the, like, especially the articles and reading outside of housing and residence life, because it's easy for us to get stuck just in housing or just in higher ed. But I do think it makes it more marketable for us to kind of understand other people and get involved in committees and outside of, student affairs sometimes, because you do have a different perspective. So thank you all for sharing that wonderful advice. So our last question before we open it up to the group will be, what was your experience with getting involved with SEAHO? And how did it help you in your career? I know that you all are involved in many organizations, but since this is a SEAHO webinar, we want to make sure that you talk about it so we can get others hopefully more involved with SEAHO in the future.
Okay, I think this one comes back to me. Okay, not to be difficult again, but my situation was atypical of most everyone else's. What do I mean by that? Despite having attended my first SEAHO conference in 1978 at what was then Memphis State University, I really got involved in SEAHO when I returned to the region in 1988, having already established myself in the housing and residence profession at several other regions. To the best of my knowledge, I am the only individual, this is a trivia question, who has ever served on the ACUHO-I executive board before becoming a regional president. As a result, my career of involvement in various professional housing organizations was well established before becoming active in SEAHO. Without going over all my service in SEAHO, let me impart this message to all our participants, and some of them have distinguished careers in our region already. I firmly believe that volunteering and getting involved in professional organizations, be it on your local, state, or SEAHO or ACUHO-I, is critically important. For me, it's part of your obligation as a professional. As a payoff, it helps build relationships, expertise, and knowledge that will help you to be a better problem solver, develop a larger and wider network, grow as an individual and a professional, and develop a professional identity that can be extremely beneficial in your current position and advancement in your career. I know I would not have enjoyed the professional career that I did had I not gotten involved and stayed involved in SEAHO. That involvement directly contributed to a vast number of friendships over the years, including many of those I maintain and treasure to this very day, some of whom are on this webinar with us. My plea to the senior housing officers who may be viewing this is two. One, support the involvement of your staff members in all SEAHO opportunities and help them understand the importance of their involvement to their current position and their growth as a professional. And two, as senior housing officers, attend SEAHO conferences and events as often as you're able. Our younger professionals need your presence and active participation at these events. I do want to share a word of caution. When you do volunteer and take on a responsibility, follow through with what you have said you will do. Over the years, I have observed and interacted with a number of individuals who have taken on a responsibility in order to enhance their vita and then failed to complete the obligation. Things happen, and if they do, notify the leader of that committee or group so that the arrangements can be made to address the task you were going to accomplish. You don't want to develop a professional reputation as an individual who doesn't complete his or her obligations. It's a relatively small profession, and people have a long memory. Thank you.
I'm not sure how I follow Mr. SEAHO, but let me see if I can. SEAHO has been my regional association for 35 years, and that's including in my retirement. I met hundreds of people, presented programs, connected with corporate partners, used the informal times between sessions and events, and purposefully kept in touch with many excellent, smart, and talented colleagues from many schools in many states. These connections have been invaluable to me. No one has success alone. Relationship with people from different institutions with varying points of view and professional perspectives have been crucial to me. They gave me deep insight. Allow professional pals outside your home institution, and that gives you an opportunity to get more objective input about circumstances you face compared to your friends at home. Staying connected intentionally outside the confines of the annual conference schedule is essential. It just can't be once a year, and you should take the responsibility to reach out and connect. How many times have you heard someone say, let's get together, and it never happens? But it does if you initiate it intentionally.
Good words.
Thank you so much. I think you both definitely have been, shed a light on just kind of how important it is to really get involved and connect, because obviously all the individuals here, this is a really great way to stay connected and also, you know, really just kind of see each other outside the conference because sometimes we can't even make it to the conferences either. So this is a wonderful opportunity for that. So thank you once again, but there's time for people that may have some questions. I'm going to be monitoring the chat. So if you want to write in the chat, but it's a lot on here, so I'm going to try to see how we can do it the best way. If you're able to raise your hand, and then I can call you out, and then you can ask your question, or if you want to put it in the chat, I'll read the question out loud. So I hope some people have some other questions they can ask.
We must be intimidating, Gerry.
I'll ask one. So if you want to stay involved after officially retiring, are there any tips for how to keep that in balance and be able to enjoy both parts of your life?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is that being retired doesn't necessarily mean you're not working.
Right.
So I think that's probably the most important statement is the freedom that you have to identify what you want to spend your time and energy on in retirement is amazing. But I think if you have the desire, Denise, to stay connected, there's plenty of opportunities. And quite frankly, I think there are some intentional things that our associations can do to bring boomers like me and Paul into contemporary conversation. I think while I may not be a digital native, it doesn't mean that I haven't been able to keep up with some things, and my computer crashes just as often as yours does. But I think that if you have the desire, I think all you've got, it's the same, it's almost the same kind of dynamic as you deciding you want to become involved in an association. You raise your hand and say, I'm ready. It was really interesting when I retired, the first week I got a call from Mary De Niro for an opportunity that unfortunately I had to say no to because of personal circumstances. But I think the year before I retired, I also put my name out there to say, in a very gentle and friendly Jerry Kowalski kind of way, hey, if you need any help, I'm on the porch.
Denise, one thing I would say, and this, if one has a partner, significant other, I think that's a key component. I think both Gerry and I know myself have been blessed with partners who have been supportive. Now, I will share my situation, and I've been married 51 years. Diane is very supportive of my maintaining my professional involvement, whether that's doing an on-site review or exchanging emails or being on Zoom calls, with one clear a demarcation point, as long as it doesn't mess with her travel plans. And I've been able to stay engaged to the extent that I like, or am interested in. She's been able to maintain her identity and things. Right now, she's literally in the back room on a computer, sorting through and photoshopping pictures from a 50th anniversary river cruise we took in Europe. And the stuff she produces is phenomenal. I am the digital Neanderthal. She is the digital master. But I think that personal situation that one finds him or herself in is very important. And I totally concur with what Gerry said. And frankly, it holds to working people as well. If you see something or you have an interest or you just want to say, raise your hand, I'd like to help, put it out there. This afternoon at 4 o'clock, there's going to be a meeting of the research committee that I am still active in after 30 plus years. And there was just on the Daily Akuhoai, I forget the name of it, but a call for anyone who would like to be a reviewer for an endorsed research grant that we just received. Anyone on this, and any one of your staff members can respond to that and be given a rubric and 30 minutes of their time to provide their feedback. So the opportunity is always out there. And the one thing that I will share personally, and Gerry hasn't experienced this yet, but it may come. I think if there's a blockage, it's the fact that the professionals of today see the seniors. They don't see us necessarily as a resource. They may see us as a, oh, way back when kind of story. And yeah, I think there is a council of elders that are available out there. It's not formal, and 2 of them are on this conference, on this webinar, that are available for people to reach out. And as we can, I know I'm speaking for both of us. We would be happy to spend a little time with you and provide our thoughts with a clear understanding from my perspective. You are under no obligations to accept any recommendation I make, and feel free to challenge me, but I want to help if I can.
Thank you. We have a few more questions. I know, Gerry, you answered one from Ricky. What was the smartest thing you did to prepare to retire? And so Gerry stated, identify what your retirement goals are prior. So Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
Probably, and this is not necessarily where Ricky's going, but from an operational perspective, once you make a decision you're going to retire, you have a quandary. Do you make it public? Do you let your supervisor know? Because frankly, once one indicates one is retiring, it is a natural tendency for you to be, pardon my French, kicked to the curb. All of a sudden, you're no longer involved in planning for the fall. And I think the group, if the person wants to be involved, is losing some valuable perspective. But there, and I have a little document I put together of things to consider when you're getting ready to retire. And these are nuts and bolts, checkpoints like Gerry would talk about. What do you do? What are you going to do with your files? What are you going to do with your library? What are you going to pass on? What can you turn to the institutional archives? What can you send to Akuho or SEAHO archives? What do you pitch? What people just don't give a rip about? What you need to shred? So that's a more prior to turning your keys in and leaving on a good note, because you want to leave happy and you want to leave your institution happy. They may be happy to see you going, but at least happy that you've done what you can to let them move forward.
When I Googled how to tell your boss you're retiring, I came across a book that I've been recommending for the last 6 years. It's called How to Retire Wild, Happy, and Free, because every good book has a colon in it, right? What your financial planner will never tell you. And it really is a very common sense perspective. It's a great read. And it just really, it didn't, I don't know there was any rocket science in it, but I think for me, I always go to bibliotherapy. I mean, I like to read about what I'm getting myself into, and it was really, really helpful. And one of the things that I did in retirement, and Denise, this may also go to your question, I spent a year meeting with people for lunch and coffee and said, "Welcome to the club." And people said, "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" But I said, "No, you're one of the people I want to hang out with after I retire." Because there were some people that I didn't invite to coffee and lunch. You know, I think it's, again, you know, to me, even though we're retired, there's a great power in intention. And I think if we think about those things and we do these kind of discernment processes over and over and over again, I think it's really, really important. You know, there's a discernment cycle about the Shun family. Have I told you about the Shun family? Some of you maybe heard about the Shun family. Okay. The Shun family is intention, which is making a goal with plans. I'm making a plan with goals. Reflection, which is thinking of and feeling about you. Decision, which is selecting the options. Action, which is taking steps to implement. Evaluation, which is reviewing the action and making necessary changes. And then repetition, beginning the experience again. And I've done that several times in my retirement too. So, you know, intention is just super, super powerful. And that's why I think the questions we've been getting are really good, because there is motive beyond what looks like, okay, what's next?
Thank you. We have a question from D. Allard. Do you believe you saved enough money to retire and live your best life now? Tips and/or advice?
Yeah, I think the question is a great one. And everybody has different comfort level with money in retirement. But if you've been prudent in your career and contributed to your retirement savings or 401ks since you started, and I did the second year I was at Trinity, I wasn't eligible the first year. You know, you do have enough. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have 3 income streams still. I'm a member of the teacher retirement from the state of Georgia. I collect money from TIAA CREF, and I'm collecting Social Security. And I think it really is a matter of, like, again, connected to your goals. What do you want to do? If you know what you want to do, I think it kind of gives you a sense of what kind of money you're going to have. And right now, this is the sweetest time of my life, because I'm actually more resourceful than I ever have been, considering that I started at $13K a year.
Yeah, Gerry's certainly given you good advice, and you know, obviously, it's a very personal decision. I go back to that best move I ever made 51 years ago. I go back to Diane. Diane is an accountant. She was an accountant at Georgia College for 23 years. She's the brains behind the outfit, no doubt about it. And she has done wonderfully well. We live like church mice, okay? We're low maintenance. And we choose to use our retirement dollars. And Gerry's advice right at the start: soon as if any of you now are not, there are people at all levels in terms of on this webinar and who may watch it at a subsequent date. If you are not actively contributing to the retirement options at whatever they are at your institution, you are missing not only a tremendous opportunity, you are beginning to cripple yourself, because nobody knows what the world and this country is going to be like when most of you are ready to retire. You know, it used to be when I was coming, you know, if you had $500,000 when you retired, you were set, quote, for what the actuaries said you would live to. Nowadays, $500,000 is a drop in the bucket. and you don't know what your health will be. You don't know what the future is going to hold. Do everything you can not to position yourself and your significant others, family, whatever it be, so that you can be, as Gerry said, at the place when you do retire, you have options. You can choose things that other people may not be able to, but you got to do it consciously. And don't the I'll do it tomorrow story doesn't work out well, because it'll be 15 years from now and you'll be kicking yourself because of how much you would have contributed to the teacher retirement system in your respective institution or states.
And in the same way, your investment in yourself is just as important as your investment in money. We're all student affairs people, and we know what holistic development is. And we need to apply that to ourselves. So we need to take care of mind, spirit, and body.
Yep.
And we need to do that now. I can't tell you how grateful I am that I have the ability to do the things I want to do, in spite of the fact that I've had some personal health challenges. And so, I've been very fortunate, but I think that, now's the time to set those habits. And I don't get 8,000 steps in every day, but it's close. And I'm not polishing my apples. I'm just saying that, a body in motion tends to remain in motion, and a body at rest tends to remain at rest.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I have one last question from Deanna Hughes. What advice would you give to mid-level professionals seeking career advancement while partnered with children?
So I think some of that has to do with an institutional value alignment and geographic location and institutional size. I think those are all very important factors. I'll say from my personal experience, Deanna, that we had a lot of years in college towns, and that was a wonderful, idyllic opportunity to raise children. And I think that was critical for us. I think also partner-wise, it's a matter of, what quality of life do you want? What are you looking for? What gives you a joy? And sometimes that's the big city life. Sometimes it's the mountains. Sometimes it's the beach. Sometimes it's a great team to work with. Sometimes it's a whole bunch of everything. So I hope that in some way addresses a bit of your question. I'm not sure that I was hitting it directly, but I was trying to hit around it anyway.
Well, and the only thing I might add is don't assume you need to advance, quote, move up or down the food chain, depending on how you view it, to be satisfied and to have a wonderful career and make a significant impact. When I came here, I never thought I would be here. Well, it's 34 years now. But circumstances and everything just kind of fell in place. And I was happy. I made the decision. I turned down opportunities to, quote, accept different positions. There was a time when I was on the hit list, and Gerry has been on this list, I'm sure, where you get calls from some of the recruiting firms and all, or colleagues saying position X, executive director, vice president for Y is available. But I made, for personal reasons, decision. I was happy where I am. And the old analogy, the grass is not always greener on the other end of the fence. I think our obligation is to make our situation the very best we can. Frankly, I truly believe if you do a really good job, opportunities can come available at the institution you're at. May not be in, quote, housing residence life, but people will value you and see your skills and expertise, and you can be in a situation where you're sought after. Now, the children, that's a major, in my experience, and I only had one, but having worked with a lot of colleagues, the age of the children make, I think, a significant impact. And I know colleagues who have accepted a position, and because their sons and daughters were in late middle school or like sophomores in high school, that they didn't want to relocate their family, and they made arrangements. In some cases, their son or daughter stayed with a friend and lived with the friend. I mean, close friends. Obviously, you don't just, well, nowadays you might put out a thing on Facebook and say, how's my kid for 6 months? But that's, I guess, what I'd say without babbling on. But it's a tough spot, and I think it needs to be a family decision to be most successful. My nickel dime.
Well, thank you both so much for taking out your time and sharing your experience. I feel enlightened and motivated. So this is definitely was definitely needed, and I'm very grateful for your service to higher education and your continued service in higher education as well. And we definitely are excited to continue to see you all at the different conferences if you attend. And then also, if you all need anything, please feel free to reach out to us as well. But thank you everyone who attended as well. I really appreciate you all and hope you all have a good rest of the afternoon, week. Hope you get some time this weekend to enjoy, and be safe. Take care of you. So if Paul and Gerry, if you could stay on after for a minute, that would be great.
Be happy to.
Yeah, thank you. So see you all later, everyone. Please come to our next webinar, June 27th, by the way.